Hey there everybody, this is Nathan Clark over at Brand New Box. I'm going to try and show you how to install Symfony locally on Mac. I'm running Leopard, and also on Dreamhost, which is a shared server. This is the kind of goal here is to get some sort of web framework up and running on a shared host that a lot of people use. So I'm going to be showing you how to do it, or at least trying, and I'll be using Capistrano to handle all my deployment, which is a great little tool for getting stuff up and around. So I've started off, I've downloaded the stable release of Symfony. I'm not using the sandbox. Trying to keep things fast and slim here. So I've downloaded the latest tar from Symfony, and I've put it in my Apache web documents folder. So on a Mac, that's at library/web server/documents. And I'm doing that at the localhost level rather than at the sites level, just to kind of keep a few things cleaner for myself. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and unzip that file, and now I've got Symfony 1.0.6 16 in there actually. I'm going to drag that folder back into my document root level and rename it to just Symfony. I don't need all the extensions on there. So now I've got Symfony, and I don't need these two things anymore, so I'm just going to throw them away. So if I look at my local host, I now have a Symfony folder, which is exactly what I want. So to make it so that people can access Symfony and stuff like that, I need to edit my bash login file or bash profile, depending on what you have. So I'm going to say edit my bash login, and these are all my shortcuts and paths and stuff like that. I'm just going to add 2 lines at the bottom that add that path to Symfony to my path, so I can just run Symfony as is. So there's my library web server documents Symfony data binary, and that should be good. So save that, and the last thing I want to do is I want to make sure that Symfony is actually executable. So I'm going to go to that folder, web server documents Symfony library binary. Was that not it? Oops. Let's see what that is. CD data binary. There it is. And the properties on Symfony are just read and write. And I want to add execute to that. So I'm going to change mod. What is it? 644. I'll try 644 to Symfony. Let's see if that does it. So well prepared. No, that's what I had already. Let's change it to 744. So there, my Symfony file is now executable. And I'm going to check that check that it's in my path by closing this session, open a new one. Oops, let's put it back in there. And if I start typing SYMF and I hit tab, I now have a Symfony command. If I press enter, I get the help information there. So let's go back to our Apache web server documents folder. All I have in there is Symfony right now. I'm going to create a directory for a project I'm doing called Open Hiking, and go into that directory, change directories. So now I'm in my Open Hiking directory, and I need to create a new project using Symfony. So we use the Symfony init project Open Hiking command. Just put whatever name of your project is there in the end, and it runs and it generates a handful of files. It looks really slick in there. And we also need to generate a front-end application just to get things started. So that's Symfony init app front-end. You can call this whatever you want. I just did the sandbox tutorial and they called it front-end. So Symfony init app front-end, and now we have a front-end up and running. So if I reload things over here, I should have an Open Hiking folder with a web folder. I could go in there right now if I wanted to, but I'm not, because as soon as I do that, it starts generating cache files, and I'm going to be using Subversion with all of this, and I don't want to add those cache files to Subversion. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my terminal here and do svn checkout. I've already created a repository online for these files, so I'm just going to check it out. And if all goes well, I should be at revision 0. And then the nice thing is, by not going to the cache, I can just do svn add star, which adds all of my content. And I'm going to check that in as the first check-in. Great. So now all of my initial project and application files are checked into Subversion and being taken care of there. So now if I go over here to web, I now get the nice Symfony congratulations, project's been created page. And if I go back to the terminal, I can see that a few things have changed. Well, it's just created that cache for the front end. At some point, we'll set that up to ignore that, but right now I'm not too concerned. The next big thing that I want to do is I want to set up Capistrano on this, because I'd like to deploy this to Dreamhost real quickly and easily. So the command for that is just capify. So I'm going to capify that. It adds a couple of files, which I then need to add to Subversion. So svn add cap file and svn add config deploy. So now I have 2 files in there. And let's fire up TextMate and get open this up. Open up those files. Let's see here. Will this work? Great. That's not the one I want. Just gonna open documents, open hiking. There it is. So here's my open hiking application, and Capistrano's created a deploy file as Ruby, which isn't PHP, but if you're using it already for other projects, this is a fantastic tool to get stuff up and running on web servers really quick. So here's the basic content that they provide you with. I've gone ahead and written a my own pasty, my own deploy file that I put on pasty. It's 201.214, but this is what we're going to be using to put that. So I'm just going to view this and copy and paste it in here. So walking through here, the application's open hiking. Here's my repository. This is the website that we'll be working with. I'll be deploying to home OpenHiker apps open hiking. Users OpenHiker, and SVN is going to be exporting the data. And then I've written a custom task called deploy Symfony. And what it does is it creates the new release, so it checks out the data from Subversion. It links the new release SF to Symfony's library SF. So we need to set up Symfony's SF file on the server. It links the current folder to the new release, and then it links the domain to the current folder. Dreamhost just has, all of your domains are at /openhiking.com or /whatever.com. So I want to link that to my current one /web. That's where all the processing takes place. The last thing that I had to do to make this work is I had to scrub my config file, because here on my local machine, Symfony is located in a different place than where I have it located on my server. So I have to change those paths. I changed it from library web server documents to /home/OpenHiker. So that replaces that information in the file, saves it in a temporary file, and then replaces the config PHP with that temporary file. So save that, and let's see, I've seen status. So we have our cap file and our great new deployment recipe. So let's check that in and say that Capistrano has been added. So we're really close. The next thing that I want to do is log into my server. So I've got that pulled up here. And if I do a little directory listing here, I've just got my open hiking directory. You can see my Subversion stuff in there and the other stuff that just comes with Dreamhost. So the first thing I need to do is create a landing spot for the deployment release to go to. So I'm going to make a directory called apps and go in there and then make a directory called open hiking. And the first thing, I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. The Subversion repository is going to want some sort of authentication, and that doesn't work very well through the Capistrano script. So I'm going to go into my open hiking directory, make a directory called releases, go into the releases directory, and make a directory called, I'll just call it temp, cd temp. And I'm going to check out those two releases here just so that SVN gets some authentication going between my server here and my repository server. So SVN checkout HTTP. Oh, it looks like I already had it going. I was practicing this earlier, so it looks like it just worked. So, great, authentication's there. It checked it out without any problem. So actually with that being done, I'm just going to remove all that, just so I can show you later what happens when this all works. Alright, so now we've got our apps folder with open hiking inside of it. The other thing we need to do is get a working copy of Symfony on here, and so for that we're just going to use the wget command. So wget Symfony project stable, and give it a second here and it'll pull this stuff all off the server. And then we got to unzip that. And now we've got the zip and the new folder, and I'm going to kind of make it more like my development server. I'm going to rename that from Symfony 1.016 to just Symfony. And as the last thing, I'm just going to clean out that Symfony stable file. And what else do I need? I don't need that package. There we go. So apps folder, open hiking, and Symfony all set up on my server where they need to be. I can't think of anything else that I'm missing, so I'm just going to show you on the left real quick. This is where I'm at right now at open hiking. It's saying permission forbidden because nothing's set up right now. But if I come over here and run cap deploy Symfony, let's see what happens. It prompts me for my username for my password on the server, checks out the repository, creates those links, goes through and renames that file. So let's see how this works. Go back to open hiking, click refresh, and Symfony loads, and just like that, we've got a working Symfony project created, now deployed onto our server at a nice URL. Everything looks great. So just to show you how cool Capistrano is, I'm going to jump over to TextMate here and open my open hiking project. So while I was looking for what file to change there, I was playing around on the local host and I realized I led you astray. There's one more thing we need to do to get this working locally. When I load this, I don't get any CSS or images or anything like that. I just get this raw information, and that's because our project is not linked into Symfony's web information and stuff like that. So I'm going to do that real quick. We go back to terminal, and then we say that, let's see, where am I located here? That doesn't really matter. we want to link those two, our project to Symfony's information and stuff like that. So we're going to create a symbolic link to Symfony. So that's in the library, web server, documents, Symfony, web slash Symfony, data, web, SF, and we're going to link that in the same, except from the project. So web server documents, open hiking, web, SF. So now there's a symbolic link just on our server, and when I reload this page, now my images and CSS and stuff like that are back. So if I do an SVN status, you can now see I've got that cache that it doesn't know what to do with, and those web SF information that doesn't know what to do with. And we'll just set those to ignore because our server does the same thing for us, right? Cool. All right, so let's get back to trying to make a small change here to show on the server. So I'm going to create a little module in here. So Symfony init module front end, and we're just going to call it main. So go back over here to modules, and now we have main, and we're going to open up our action class here, and the execute index, we're going to just wipe this out, so we don't want to forward it, and open up the view for that as well. So h1 I from the new module. And then we gotta change our routes to show that. So our modules are main one action index. So let's see if that did it. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. So locally, if I reload this, nothing. Dang it. Oh, maybe I gotta clear a cache. There we go. So I forgot to clear the cache, and once I did that, I was able to reload, and here's my new module index page showing new content there as well. So that looks pretty good to me. So let's check that in. We got to add SVN, add apps front end modules main, adds a few files. I'll go ahead and add those tests as well. SVN add test functional front end main action test. So now we should have all of our files in here except the cache and that SF folder. So SVN check-in, first minor change to the application. And let's do cat deploy Symfony. Does everything we did before, except now we have new code in there. Creates a new release, links that release to current, and command is finished. So now let's try going to openhiking.com, and we reload the page, and it says, hi from the new module. So that's the basics on running Symfony on Mac OS, as well as on a shared host on Dreamhost, and using Subversion to get the content to fly back and forth between the two. So happy coding. Hope you guys enjoyed it.